Welcome to Creative Vitality Jam Sessions. Here, we have intimate conversations with extraordinary dance and theater artists about reimagining creativity and supporting and building community. Creative Vitality Jam Sessions and I walk as allies and in solidarity for equality, justice, and respect because Black Lives Matter, and we will stay in motion until change comes. I'm Helen Pickett, and today's guest is Lee Foster, Executive Director of a Rialto Center of the Arts at Georgia State University. Lee and I met in Portland, Oregon in 2013, and we have been talking ever since. Hi, Lee, welcome.
Thank you so much. Katlyn, it's so wonderful to see you.
I know, your beautiful face. I've really missed you.
Me too.
So let's just jump right in. First question for everybody is, where are you in the world?
I am right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And it's absolutely gorgeous here. A little warm in August, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Everything's green.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's a really nice part of the world I'm in, this lush green. It feels so, it's first of all, I always think the blooms are ending and then another kind of flower comes up or another tree. It's so beautiful.
It is. It's very necessary during COVID. So
yeah, life affirming.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to start right off the bat with the work that we did together. So we worked on Camino Real together at the Atlanta Ballet. And as I recall, you and I had been figuring out how to work since you came up to Portland, Oregon in 2013. And then the serendipitous your move happened when you moved to Atlanta to actually really talk about reimagining. You really just like, right, we're going to start life anew. And so we were in Atlanta together when I was there working with Atlanta. And in 2014, 15, we started working on Camino Real. And so can you explain how it was to coach the dancers in these very meaty roles and the history that you invoked for this coaching?
Well, there was, you know how much I love working with you, so it was just such a pleasure. But the good news is you've done some acting yourself. You're not just a dancer, not just a choreographer. You are, and you love sort of performance art, right? So you know that acting is more than just a management of one's vocal cords, right? So I think there were some people at Atlanta Ballet sort of thought, because we had understood that we could have done better in prior years with the voices of the actors, and that was sort of the analysis, right? That they didn't have the actor voice, whatever that is. But you and I talked about, I don't know if you remember this, but we really talked about the fact that more than the voice, although you can improve upon one's voice, but more than the voice, it's about intention. Acting is about intention and action and knowing where you are, what world you're in, who your allies are, who your enemies are, and living that, actively, doing. So I had the profound experience to work with these incredibly open dancers, so open. They were so, I think of Jacob and Heath and Karen, just amazing. And they were just open to this incredible experience because I truly believe that mastery is that place of perfect expression and sort of perfect technique, sort of the technical and the passionate. And so what I was trying to do is make, in ballet worlds, you don't have very much time to get that piece up and to really understand, right?
And I just want to iterate because I didn't say this, but there was text in this piece, and that's what you're talking about. Also, the voice of the dancers,
right?
Yeah,
Voice
and
of
not normal either in ballet.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But to make someone understand what they're saying is way more than them reading off a page. So your and my goal together was really making them understand the world they were in and live in that world. And so to me, you and I did a great job at finding that place. And so, I mean, Jacob has said to me now that he uses those methods for all of his analysis of all of his story ballets now, to understand where he is, where he's going, who his allies are, and then create the active verbs about what he's doing. So it was an extraordinary experience. I had no idea it would be so extraordinary. And I think part of it was because they were so open to this approach. It was something that they had never experienced, except for Nadia Mara. She had done more of it than anyone else. But look at how far some of the dancers came, like Jacob Bush or even Tara Lee. You know, talk about a voice. Her real voice is tiny, right? It's small. And she's never, I mean, although her mother is a voice coach, so she understands the context for a voice, but the subtext that made her the Esmeralda was just transforming. I know it was transforming for her, and it was certainly transforming for me.
Yeah, and that last speech that Tara Lee and Alessa Rogers, both of them, that is still probably, you know, even if I lost all the other text, if I got rid of all the other texts in the piece, I couldn't get rid of that prayer. It's such an amazing prayer, you know, and Williams had, you know, everything he felt was in that moment.
I actually really felt that you got across Camino Real better than the words, because even though that you used the words for the understanding of what we were all doing, to me, this whole surreal world was better experienced through ballet. I really thought it worked.
Thank you. You know, it's funny, Elia Kazan, who
right, he directed
the first time, right? He actually said that he thought Camino Real would be better as a dance.
It was.
It's in John Lahr's book, that amazing biography of Williams that came out around the time I was doing Camino the first time. And it's an amazing book. It's beautifully written. And there's a whole chapter on Camino Real, because it's really not a known play. Yeah. And you're right. I really would love to work with you again in some way. It was a joy to work with you. And that was that's what our meeting was in Portland. How could we work together? Right?
And you had your copy of Camino Real actually at that huge Portland bookstore.
That's right.
You know, like the 6-block Portland bookstore. I can't think of it.
I love that bookstore so much. Yes, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll probably scream it out at some point in the interview as things happen. So Lee, you've worn many hats, you know, talk about, again, of a person who has reimagined, and I would say with the intention to reimagine. You're incredibly intellectually curious and heart-filledly curious. I just made up a word. But so you've worn many hats, artistic and executive. You've left an artistic legacy in the Bay Area, where you directed, acted, and taught on both sides, artistic and executive. And you were the managing director of Theatrical Outfit once in Atlanta. This amazing and full steam ahead life has given you a unique perspective to lead. How are some of the ways you incorporate your vast knowledge in the everyday of leading every day?
Well, It's been a huge journey for me because, you know, I didn't start my career fully cooked. um, in the early days, in the early days, I really tried to control everything, every decision, the board of directors, the artistry, you know, and then some happy accidents happened to make me, early on, luckily, to make me realize that sometimes the universe brings you more possibilities than you yourself can either imagine or control. And that's when I sort of let go and realized that a couple of things. Number one, I realized that whatever was the outcome of those collaborations or inputs or even fate, things that maybe you didn't want to happen, sometimes worked really well for you or well for me. My point being that I've started really in a big way to embrace whatever is going to happen, which doesn't mean that I sort of put my head in the sand like an ostrich, but at the same time, there are a lot of ideas that come from extraordinary places, whether lofty or not, that change the world, I think. And so it's my job to listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's my job to listen. It's taken me a long time. I mean, I'm as stubborn as you are, you know, and as exacting. It's a redheaded thing, right? But just certain things, like when I went to Theatrical Outfit, I loved working with Tom Key, you know, the artistic director there. But at the same time, there were some financial concerns over there that made me, again, kind of revert to my place of being, you know, dictatorial, which is, we're going to live through this. We're going to get through this. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to say, and blah, blah, blah. So that doesn't, it might get you through something. It might even, you know, improve your art. It might do a lot of things, but ultimately it doesn't necessarily win you friends.
And it's not sustaining.
No, you can't you're absolutely right. Because
that energy is not sustaining. It's not building. It's well, as you said, it's a tearing down eventually. I do believe, you know, getting there, you need a strong hand sometimes, right? You need to say, we are going to do this right now. And it has to have a tremendous amount of energy in order to get it done. And then you're right. It's like, oh, we did it.
Well, and then at Theatrical Outfit, when I got it done, which was about maybe almost 4 years in, it like you say, I had to go because at that point they were doing well. And when then you're, you know, you're doing well and you have a person that's more of a sort of, a person that brings an organization back from the brink, it's just much harder. Now, it's interesting about that is eventually I found my way to the Rialto Center for the Arts here at Georgia State University, and they didn't really need to be fixed. So I thought, oh, finally, a place where I can sort of come in, listen to everyone, build something, and it's just going to be much easier going forward. And of course, then COVID, you know, came in March, and here I am trying to really, again, help the institution to survive when we don't have real programming. You know, we can't bring in major artists to an 833-seat theater, so I've been, you know, pivoting, that's the word, you know, one day this, one day that, right? For you too, I'm sure. Pivoting, so I've been bringing in artistic groups on the stage to stream live. And that way I can keep the art alive, I can keep hope alive with the art, and we can make a mark and keep our name out there. Because I think that, as you know, I think art's so critical right now to really give us, I mean, they say there's, more people sort of depressed and affected by both the political climate, no matter what you believe, and also by the COVID and the effect of that. So we need a little levity. We need a little, I actually love John Krasinski's show, Some Good News. It just makes me laugh. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of also all of the late night people and people that are streaming from home, and you see everybody's hair growing long, including mine. Like everybody's in this place where we're like, but it's the same thing. A lot of throughout history, there have been horrible times, plagues, wars. And this is a time in this world, not just this country. And the amazing thing is that art is long, and art overcomes, and art helps people to overcome. And also, I'm telling you, hard times also make people wake up out of the apathy as well, and out of the place where I don't really have a voice, and say, oh, I have a voice and I better use my voice, and I have to wear my mask, and I have to do it. There's an energy that can come out of these times too.
Oh, I pinch myself all the time when I'm walking in the woods. I mean, I have a job. I have the beautiful place to live. My family's well, so in spite of whatever kind of oppression, if I can call it that, I feel as a result of COVID, because I tend to be an extrovert. So aspects of this is difficult. And obviously I worry about my institution and the people that work for my institution. Not to say I have anything to say about that. It's just a general concern.
And you know what? And we both love art, and we know it sustains.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a combination. I'm incredibly curious, but I think I'd heard years ago that people manage people, and then those that manage money manage the people who manage people. So if you really want to control some level of, I think, art, you have to, in my mind, control some level of money. And money to, money to, darn it, I'm so sorry, that phone's ringing. The money to support the art, and money to support the artists, money to support their ability to live somewhere and create whatever they want to create. And then money to, well, right now, money to stream it, money to put it out in the world, right? So I always felt that the strategic thinking about art was as critical as the art itself. And I got blessed, or maybe cursed, with a right and a left brain. So I just sort of understood both. I also had worked with my share of sort of bean counters in the old days, those that really only put the number on the art and didn't sort of put the value on the art. So, I mean, not to say that all artists should have unlimited budgets, but I think when you really understand what someone's saying, like when Tom Key and I worked together, then, and he said, I need this because of this, this is the reason, then those are very good reasons to fund it. And so I've always seen myself as a true advocate for the art and the artist, versus just, a numbers person that wants to get to some bottom line. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And I think it makes really absolute sense, because you're coming, knowledge is power, right? And you're coming from both sides. You have this MFA where you studied and felt things yourself, and felt art within your being, and I mean really with practicing the voice and everything, and then you have this other side. And my mom used to say that the best doctors are the ones who also had some kind of practice in art. It's always the same about how these energies come together because of the understandings.
Right. Again, it's that, to me, it's that expression and precision. I mean, we can all be actually creative artists in various fields, not just, artistic or tangibly artistic, but I've known absolutely extraordinary accountants, believe it or not. I mean, really creative. And I don't mean cooking the books. I just mean, being able to truly envision a methodology to get where they need to get. And they get it at a deep level, they get it.
Yeah. I know you're a very positive, life-affirming person. Could you explain why you think positive leadership is a more effective path as a director? And then what are your tenets for leadership? And what would you say to women who are entering leadership positions? Those are three big questions, but so I can repeat them. So the first one is why you think positive leadership is perhaps a more effective path, your tenets, and what you would say to women entering leadership roles.
As I said before, I've changed a lot. I used to control everything. And then when I sort of let everything go, I had great confidence that the universe would get us where we needed to go, whatever that was. So within that, I recognized that many other people had great ideas. I listened to everybody very carefully, but it took me a long time to have the confidence. But I know you do that too. I mean, even when you're choreographing, I notice obviously you want to put the best dance on that person. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that person will say, or I've seen it, what about this? Or what about this? Or you'll say, what do you think is the best solution to this? And in a way, that's the same technique that I use specifically for management or even directing. I think the one thing we could do for women going forward is to really give them the confidence that taking other people's perspective is not a sign of weakness. It's really a sign of strength.
Oh,
it doesn't have to be all you all the time.
No, I know, but you see, that needs to be, and you just said it, that needs to be educated in over and over again. You just said it, because there is a big camp that thinks taking other people's, like opening up the space for other people's opinions, there's a big camp that thinks that is weak. So you're right. I do the same thing, Lee.
I know you do. I've seen you do it. Yeah. I mean, you even, and this was one of the things I was thinking about today, you even let me take over one of your, remember that? That was probably one of the most moving, creative experiences of my life. Oh. No, it was. You let me take over your rehearsal for a moment, for a little bit. Remember when we had in Camino Real and we made everyone sort of come together as a group and then recognize who was their enemy and who was their friend, and then walk around thinking who had status over you and who had status under you, and then figuring out where you came from and where you were going. And I just saw light bulbs go on. I don't know if you felt the same way. It was sort of like the whole room went, wow. It was, it's very oogly boogly, but it was just marvelous. And the fact that you trusted me to do that is extraordinary. And to me, that's what is very hard for young leaders, especially women, is to let it go and to know that it's okay to be part of a team. It's okay. You know, and as you know, I never instructed them on the dance, but it was more about the attitude and the intention. So,
Yeah.
and it worked. It was a beautiful moment for me.
I remember it so well. I remember that day in the studio so well. But don't you also think that you're speaking of trust? You just mentioned the word, right? A human being needs to have at least a modicum of trust in themselves to open up to that place. And I also feel like it's our job as leaders in this world. That's what you do as well. I've seen you do it. And that's what good coaching is to say, I trust you to make your own decision. Then that flow of trust between people, between leadership, between, dancer and choreographer, director and actor, that flow of trust breaks down the barrier of the hierarchy as well. Because if we're in a place of trust, then of course I'm going to give you the floor, because it's exactly what you said. It takes nothing away. It only adds to the whole.
Well, it's like King Arthur.
Yes, it is.
And the round table.
The round table, yes.
So we're all equals. There's no one at the head of the table. We're all equals. So I think that's my greatest learning all these years, is just that is a great place to be. Because, I mean, years ago when I was at the theater in California, I remember sitting around having this and I felt it since, but that was particularly acute, just this love for everyone who was sitting at the table. We had a lighting designer, and I know you felt that way too about your team with Camino and probably other places, but your lighting designer, your music director, your sound person, your costumer, all of that, you're sitting around, and I just kept thinking, they know so much more than I do about all of this. And I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I'm so glad, because I can tell them what I see, but they can make it happen. Right? That's trust. That they also value your vision in that effort.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They see what you see.
Exactly. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So I have to say this. I read this quote from you. My essential quality is tenacity. I believe that I am living my purpose. Therefore, I never give up. I just redouble my efforts and start again. And I've written down in my notes, wow, yes. Tenacity and intention. Yeah. Can you expound on this? Can you?
Well, in a way, it's sort of like what I just said. I sit around a table and everyone knows more than me, and I'm thrilled with that, right? But the one thing that I have potentially, my superpower at that table, is you don't give up. You don't give up. It's a superpower. I mean, you just power through no matter what. And if you run out of money, you go raise more. If you lose an actor, you replace him. You know, in a way, I'm probably one of the best people for the job at the Rialto right now, frankly, in some ways because of COVID. Because again, I'm not giving up. We're just not giving up. We're going to see artistic opportunities and we're going to take them. And you probably don't know, but there's a great artist in Atlanta by the name of Russell Gunn. He's a jazz artist, really right out of, originally from East St. Louis, which is where Miles Davis was from. And he's much younger than Miles Davis. But he came to me and said he needed to stream something to the Blue Note in New York. They promised they'd be there. They couldn't be there. They had to stream. Could we do it for him? And his band is the Royal Crunk Jazz Orchestra. So it's like, yeah, we can do it. I mean, my whole team looked at me with their kind of, and we did it, and it was great. And about 9,000 people signed on to the Blue Note website, and then we streamed it through our site. We had about, ultimately, about a little over almost 6,000. So we were able to send this great artist out to, 15,000 people. But again, I think that comes from knowing that it was great art, being as tenacious as possible, and saying, no, we're doing it. We just got to figure out how. How do we do it within the confines of the university, within following all of our rules and finding the money, right? Because he wasn't paying his orchestra, and the Blue Note wasn't paying him. And so we needed to figure out how we were going to help. And so it got done. It was fabulous.
So preaching to the choir about tenacity and intention and never giving up. I think that message in this interview for this time is something to keep spreading. This is the time. Well, also, like several months in, this is exactly the time when we can't give up. Again, from my parents, my dad, and this is a well-known quote, but my dad, said most people give up, just before they see that light. Like that light is almost, your breath is touching it, but you can't see it yet.
Right.
And there is something in what you're saying that the light is there. Therefore, the choice to give up just isn't there.
No.
Because the light is there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to instill that, like this interview, like instilling that, people to hear that. Remember, the light's always there.
Well, and the other thing is, I think the part about living your purpose. I mean, I really do think to some degree, living my purpose is about holding up the arts, holding up the artist. That's why if you remember, the reason we met is because I read your incredible written description about Cézanne. And then my husband said, write to her. And I'm like, she doesn't know me. But obviously that was a great bit of advice, and the universe wanted us to meet each other. So I think there's a purpose involved with that too. In other words, if we really center on what it is we need to be doing with our lives, I think then it's magic. It's easier.
Yeah, it is. And filled with like tremendous energy.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Here we go. The 3 questions that I ask everyone. Can you share a favorite or impactful memory from your creative life or life? I know there are many, but something that comes to you now.
Well, just to reiterate, that moment that you gave me to work with the dancers in that room, to create a world that they understood. I could see the connections when they looked at Gutmann, to look at Jacob, him having a higher status and having an expectation of them, or having a lower status, and or loving each other, or being afraid of each other. I just thought that was an incredible moment. I think another great moment was years ago when I was actually getting my MFA. I did, if you remember, I was in a singing program, singing acting program, and we had the script for Dead Man Walking, and I also and I played the murderer's mother
Oh,
in
nice.
a particular scene. So I did this scene, and then we also incorporated the aria from the opera, the Jake Heggie opera. I'm not a great opera singer, but it was more of the Maria Callas style of, singing with pain. But in any case, what happened in that moment between the scene and I was smoking a cigarette, not a real cigarette, but I was smoking a cigarette, talking about my son who was on the wall, and then singing this opera, and then just tears were running down my cheeks, is afterwards, I didn't remember what happened. I literally didn't. I don't know if you've ever danced so that you were so part of, you were the dance. So afterwards you think, I really want to do this again tomorrow night, but what did I do? So that was another extraordinary experience. And then probably my most amazing one was when I directed the musical Ragtime, the book by E.L. Doctorow. And I think isn't that right around the time we originally met, I think. In any case, the end of the second act is a dirge, basically. It's a funeral for Sarah. And I really wanted it to be as solemn, as respectful, as loving as you possibly could. So the music director and I were working together, which actually is Greg, my husband. And we tried to figure out a way that we could make it even more powerful. The song is There's a Day of Hope, there's a day of peace. And so we have an entire orchestra backstage. We have probably 40 people on stage. She's doing this gospel song. And we came up with this incredibly creative thing where she would stop everyone from singing. In other words, they'd have a pause. And you know how powerful a pause can be after, 16-piece orchestra and 40 people singing. And it just kind of stopped your heart. And she stopped the orchestra 3 times. And I just was so extraordinarily grateful that we were able to come up with that. And it was so effective to really feel everyone in the room. I just felt like the entire room lifted. Sort of like that, I don't know if you that Elton John movie where he's at the Troubadour and they're lifting. I kind of think that that's the experience of, that's the sort of metaphor for when an art piece lifts off the ground and you just feel it. I'm sure you've felt it a million times with all the things you've staged.
I would say a million times, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that those moments, that's how I say, when that presence is so strong that there's no deviation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are pretty much the 3 that I really remember as some of my favorite experiences.
Do you have a daily insight or inspiration you can share with us?
Well, I do meditate every day. I really try to sort of take everything as it comes, like be extremely present. Because again, to me, some of the best ideas come up when you're present rather than sort of anticipating, Here where I live, there's a labyrinth where I walk. There's some very thoughtful, creative people here. But this particular team that I have that works with me at the Rialto, I will say they're extremely thoughtful and insightful. So it's been an extraordinary pleasure to work with them to really hone our ideas about the future. So that's as much as going on right now.
And in the last big question, And there are many ways. I'm just going to preface this question. But in supporting and building a more equitable community, so let's say, I say dance community, but theater community, arts community, what do you believe needs to be shifted and changed?
Well, first of all, as much as I do believe that creativity, there can be, how do I put this, a tendency toward creativity. You know, there are certain people that it just sort of flows out of them. I also really believe that without sort of the training and the structure and the world where that can come out in a realized environment, that it's very hard to either, you know, pay your bills or be recognized for a particular work. In other words, I don't necessarily think creativity is just a moment in time that streaks through your brain. I think it's this mastery, this place of expression and precision. And I think precision gets taught. I think it's partly taught, that technical, learning to be a great violinist, pianist, dancer, even artist. And so to the degree that we can support those burgeoning artists, but to encourage both that technique, but that expression. It's not easy, but I think it's both. But then to give them environments where that can be used. I find a lot of students, not a lot, but some students think you should just be able to be creative and that's it. That's it. And that's nice. But the creative that I've seen, I don't know if you know of a jazz singer, NEA jazz master, Dee Dee Bridgewater, for instance. She came to the Rialto and performed. That was the last performance we did before we closed. Talk about pure emotion in the context of pure understanding of rhythm and sound and pitch and timbre and all of those things, just that amazing nexus of those two things, that takes a lifetime to find. And because of that, she has a context for recognition and achievement and continuous learning. So in any case, I think the way we can bring everyone up is by really underwriting or finding ways to bring those this raw creativity up with training and funding it, and then finding environment form.
Yeah, beautiful. Lee, what a inspiring and empowering chat. It's to sit with you today, and again taking away, you know, again your quote. I'm going to read it again. I believe that I'm living my purpose. Let me start again. My essential quality is tenacity. I believe that I'm living my purpose. Therefore, I never give up. I just redouble my efforts and start again. Hallelujah, sister. I mean, such an inspiring, knowledgeable woman, and I am really humbled to call you a friend and a colleague. And I know we have something in our future coming.
More things to do.
I thank you so much for this chat. Now I want to ask you, can you give us a website, social media, some kind of website, social media tag so we can find out more about you and Rialto?
Well, it's Rialto Center for the Arts at Georgia State University. I think it's rialto.gsu.edu. We also have a Facebook page, Rialto Center has a Facebook page. You can look it up.
Okay.
And And then we're doing a lot on the Rialto site, website. You can also see all of our streamed events, which might be fun for people to take a look.
That's great.
Because we're doing some fun things. So we call it Feed Your Senses, we do. And then we have this homegrown series where you can see a lot of Atlanta artists.
Great.
So a lot of fun.
Great, great. Would you mind staying with me as I finish up?
Of course.
Okay. So you will be able to see a short bio from Lee in our description box below the interview when it is uploaded to Creative Vitality Jam Sessions YouTube channel. There will be other information there about seeing previous interviews and upcoming guests. And speaking of upcoming guests, you will meet Amy Seiwert, choreographer and founding artistic director of Imagery, in our next session. We have 2 sessions every week, Tuesday and Sunday. And now will go on to my thank yous. Gracie Spina, co-producer, intern extraordinaire. Thank you so much for all that you do. Our arts community, the resiliency, the never give up quality of our arts community. Always humbled to be a part of you. Lee, I want to thank you again for this talk. And I say reimagine, keep reimagining that creativity. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Bye. Next time.